Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is going to be all about Hawlucha, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Hawlucha is a fighting flying type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6 and the first Pokemon that possesses this unique and awesome typing. And the best thing about it is that being a flying type paired with a fighting type, you are actually not weak to Stealth Rock, which is something that is particularly useful for pretty much any flying type in the game. But as for its abilities, the first one that it gets is known as Limber, which is a really great ability for Hawlucha as it will make it immune to the paralyzation status, meaning that if your opponent were to try to go for Thunder Wave or try to paralyze you with a move like Body Slam, the effect will never actually occur, which will allow Hawlucha to remain at its max speed at all times, which is something really great for this Pokemon. Up next, it has the Unburden ability, which is an ability that allows you to double its speed once it has lost its item, and there are actually multiple ways to do this on Hawlucha, which means that with the Unburden ability, you will become an incredibly speedy attacker, and almost more often than not be outspeeding pretty much everything on your opponent's team after an Unburden. And then lastly, it gets the Mold Breaker ability as its hidden ability, which is an ability that allows you to ignore the effects of your opponent's abilities. For example, if your opponent has the Sturdy ability, and they are at full health and you attack it for some really solid damage that would normally one-shot it, typically they would obviously live with 1 HP because of the Sturdy ability, but because of Mold Breaker, you completely ignore the Sturdy ability and just take that Pokemon out, which is really cool. But as for its stats, Hawlucha has base 78 HP, 75 defense, and 63 special defense, meaning that overall, Hawlucha is not going to be the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, so that is something to keep in mind when using it, as it will probably be taken down by pretty much any attack that will be really powerful. But for its attacking stats, Hawlucha has base 92 physical attack, which is really great, and it gets a lot of really awesome moves to make use of with that base 92 attack. And it also has a base 74 special attack, which isn't that bad, but it doesn't really learn any special attacking moves of note to really make use of anyway, so more often than not, you're probably just going to go with its physical attacking moves, as those are the stronger attacks it learns, and it has multiple ways of boosting its physical attack. And lastly, Hawlucha has base 118 speed, meaning that this Pokemon is pretty much ridiculously fast, to put it simply. It's going to be outspeeding a ton of Pokemon and being able to harass opponents with its very high speed, as well as its awesome attacking stat throughout the entirety of the battle. So overall, Hawlucha is just a really offensive and speedy Pokemon when it comes down to it. So for the first set in this video, we're going to start off by giving Hawlucha either a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Limber. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into its physical attack, 4 into its special defense, and then 252 EVs into its speed to give it its max physical attack and speed possible. And for the item, there are 4 possible options to go with. The first being a Choice Scarf to increase our speed by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Choice Band to increase our physical attack by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Life Orb to increase the power of all of our attacks while giving us a 10% recoil every time we hit with a move, but it also allows us the freedom to use all of our attacks because we're not locked into anything, or an Expert Belt as the last possible option for your item, which will increase the damage of all of your attacks that hit your opponents for super effective damage. But as for those moves, the first one we're going to be making use of on this set is going to be High Jump Kick, which is by far one of the best fighting type attacks in the game, and it is very fortunate that Hawlucha gets this, as it will be able to do some massive damage with its fighting stab. Also, it is important to keep in mind though that this move does have 90% accuracy, so if you do miss, you do lose 50% of your health every single time you miss with High Jump Kick. So it is something to keep in mind, especially if your opponent switches in a Ghost type, because then it will miss and you will lose half of your health. So just keep that in mind when using High Jump Kick, because it is a bit of a risk to use if your opponent does have a Ghost type on their team, or a Pokemon that has the move Protect or something like that. But for your next attack, we're going to be going with Stone Edge to be a rock type attack to be used in combination with your fighting type stab, which will be doing a lot of damage to plenty of other Pokemon in the game. It is a little bit inaccurate, so if you do want to, you can go with Rock Slide as well, but personally I think Stone Edge is still the better option on an offensive set for Hawlucha like this one. And then for your third move slot, you can either go with its signature move, Flying Press, Poison Jab, Bounce, or Endeavor, All of these give you different options. Flying Press obviously is a dual-typed move introduced into Generation 6. It is simultaneously a fighting and a flying type move, but it is more so a fighting move in the sense that that is what the tip or like the tool thing says right there when you look at the type of the move. So you can't actually hit ghost types with this, just to keep that in mind. But what it does is, because it's dual typed, it takes both super effectiveness and resistanceness into account when attacking an opponent. So for example, if you're using Flying Press on against a Pokemon like Saucebuck, which is simultaneously weak to fighting moves and flying moves, it'll actually be 4 times super effective, which is kind of cool. And it works the same way with any other type of resistance and super effective combination that a Pokemon might have. But Poison Jab obviously would be really useful as a way to hit fairy types, which obviously will be resisting your high jump kicks, so that is a really solid way to hit them, as well as some grass types that you could run into as well. Bounce is kind of an unreliable move just because it's a 2-turn move, but it is stab and does have a chance to paralyze. And then obviously Endeavor can be used if you are at low health, because this will bring your opponent's health down to whatever health Hawlucha has, which is also really cool. And then the last move slot, we are going to go with U-turn as a way to scout, gain switching initiative, and allow Hawlucha an easy way to maneuver around the battlefield. Also, it's really great that it's super effective against psychic types, which are obviously known to come in to sponge fighting type moves very easily. So this could be a way to do damage to them and also get you switching out to possibly a better counter or something like that. But overall, this is just a standard, fully offensive set for Hawlucha to run. Up next, we have what I believe to be one of the best ways to use an Unburden set with Hawlucha. So we're going to start this one off by either giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack. Ever the ability, we're going to be going with Unburden, obviously. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into its physical attack, 4 into its special defense, and then 252 EVs into its speed to give it its max physical attack and speed possible. And for the item, we're going to either be going with a Power Herb or Chesto Berry to work in combination with the last move that you go with on this set. It's kind of dependent, but both of these options will allow you to activate Unburden very easily with Hawlucha. But for the moves on this set, the first one we're going to be going with is going to be Swords Dance, which will be increasing Hawlucha's physical attack by 2 stages every single time it goes through this move, which will allow this Pokemon to boost its attack very high and do some massive damage with all of its physical attacks. But as for those attacks, we are again going to be running High Jump Kick as a way to be your strongest fighting type stab on this set, and then we are also going to be running Acrobatics as well to be a very, very strong flying type attack that will also get a stab boost after you have obviously lost your item. But to lose your item on the set, there are 2 possible ways to do this. We could either go with Sky Attack or Rest. Sky Attack is meant to be used in combination with the Power Herb, because Sky Attack is normally a 2-turn move that requires a charge turn and then it attacks, but with the Power Herb it actually is a only 1-turn move, meaning you can just make use of the awesome power of Sky Attack in 1 turn by using the Power Herb. Then the item gets used up and now you are in Unburden with potentially boosted attack, and have also just fired off an incredibly powerful physical flying move, which also has a chance to flinch, which is something really cool to keep in mind about Sky Attack. But if you want to be a more defensive route, you could go with Rest in combination with Chesto Berry, which will allow you to heal up your HP fully and also remove any statuses you might have received, and then obviously activate the Chesto Berry, which will heal you of your sleep status, and then activate Unburden. So once you have obviously activated Unburden, Hawlucha will be incredibly powerful and fast and be able to do some immense damage with its fighting and flying type stab attacks on the set, which for the most part is pretty much unresisted by the majority of Pokemon in-game. The only notable things I can think of are any Pokemon that are the electric flying typing, or something like Aegislash, which is obviously Ghost Steel. But there are very few Pokemon in the game that resist this stab, which is really great because it will allow Hawlucha to sweep very easily after it has set up a Swords Dance and activated the Unburdened ability. Excuse me. But there is actually another way to potentially run this set if you would like to. That is a more bulky version. So we're going to flip over that slide right now, where we will be using a Careful Nature to increase your special defense and lower your special attack. And then for the EVs, we're going to change them up to be a little bit bulkier. So we're going to be running Max HP with 252 EVs into that stat, 4 into your physical attack, and then max special defense with 252 EVs into that stat. And then this time we are actually going to be making use of Bulk Up instead of Swords Dance, and obviously only going with Rest this time to allow us to heal up our HP. But what this version of the same set does is it allows Hawlucha to take attacks extremely well, while also boosting its attack and then becoming incredibly fast after you rest up and activate the Chesto Berry to activate Unburden. And overall, this is just a bulkier version, but even without any speed investment, we are still able to outspeed Pokemon after an Unburden boost that are base 110 speed and scarfed. So it's very, very rare that your opponent will run a scarf Pokemon any faster than that base speed anyway. So more often than not, Hawlucha will still be able to outspeed everything after an Unburden on this bulkier version of the set, which is really awesome because it will allow it to not only take attacks very easily, but still be a very potent offensive threat with this set. Up next, I have a set for Hawlucha based on Baton Pass. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and for the ability we're going to be going with Limber. As for the EVs, we're going to max its physical attack and speed with 252 EVs into both of those stats, and then put the remainder 4 EVs into your special defense. And for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers as a way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But for the moves, the first one we're going to be going with is Substitute on the set, which will allow Hawlucha to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses, and also give it a much easier time to set up behind. And for those setup moves, there are actually 4 possible options to go with on the set to boost Hawlucha's stats and effectively Baton Pass them out to another member of your team if you get the opportunity to do so. So we could either run Swords Dance to boost your physical attack by 2 stages, Bulk Up to increase your physical attack and physical defense by 1 stage, Hone Claws to increase your physical attack and accuracy by 1 stage, or Agility to boost your speed by 2 stages. And it's really dependent upon the type of team you're using and what other Pokemon you have on them for the boosting move that you go with on the set. So obviously, a slow Pokemon could very easily make use of Agility, whereas a weak but fast Pokemon could very easily make use of Swords Dance, or a Pokemon with low accuracy moves could very easily make use of Hone Claws, or like a specially bulky Pokemon could very easily make use of Bulk Up. So there's tons of options to use on the set because of the enormous amount of boosting moves that Hawlucha has access to. So it's really a team-dependent move depending on what you have on your team. But for our main attack and only attack of the set, since we are running a mono-attacking set to make Hawlucha not just a complete baton passer, we are going to be running either High Jump Kick to be your main fighting type stab, or Flying Press. And High Jump Kick obviously is the stronger option, but Flying Press, even though it is weaker, does have that added flying typing to it, which essentially gives you better coverage overall for a mono-attacking set because you only have 1 move to go with. So it's really whichever one you want to go with. Even though High Jump Kick is stronger, I think Flying Press gives you better coverage overall, so that could be a very useful option to run. And then for our last move on this set, we are obviously going to be making use of Baton Pass, since that is the main purpose of the set, to Baton Pass any of your stat boosts that you have acquired to another member of your team, or even a substitute if you have a substitute up when you go for Baton Pass, as this will allow you to also pass your substitutes off to your teammates as well. Now there is something to keep in mind in that if you do run max HP on the set instead of max attack, Hawlucha's substitutes will be bigger when they get passed off to another member of your team. So it is something to keep in mind, but I think that running attack EVs on this is better because it allows Hawlucha to at least do some damage as opposed to just being a baton passer. But that's just my personal opinion. And then lastly, we have a set for Hawlucha, which I think is a ton of fun to run, as it can do quite a few different things and be very frustrating for your opponent to deal with. So we're going to start by giving it the same Jolly Nature, Limber ability, max attack and speed, and item with Leftovers as the previous set, but for the moves we're going to change them up quite a bit. The first one we're going to be going with on this set is going to be Encore or Taunt, and the main purpose of this set is basically to harass your opponent. So Taunt can be very useful for Hawlucha, as it will only allow your opponent to use attacking moves, but Encore can also be very effective for Hawlucha, as it will lock your opponent into a move that it goes for. And because Encore works through subs, and because Hawlucha is so fast, Encore can be a very effective way to harass an opponent very easily, and potentially do damage or force a switch or something like that. So this is a really great move to run on Hawlucha, even though it's probably a little uncommon, in my opinion, just because most people will probably run like the offensive Unburden set, but this move can be very useful as well, as can Taunt. But for your main fighting type attack, we are again going to be choosing between High Jump Kick or Flying Press, depending on which you want to go with, and then we're going to be going with a rock type move on the set in the form of either Stone Edge or Rock Slide. I put Rock Slide here this time instead of on the first set because getting the chance to flinch can be very beneficial and annoying if your opponent is poisoned or burned or anything like that. But Stone Edge is obviously the stronger option overall, but a little bit less accurate. And then for the last move on the set, we can either run Roost as a way to recover HP very easily, or U-turn as a way to scout your opponents and also gain switch initiative and all that good stuff that comes with using U-turn. But overall, this set is just meant to be very frustrating and can be through the use of Encore and Taunt and being able to switch around with U-turn or having constantly high health through the use of Roost. And obviously you get some really good type coverage through your fighting type stab and also a rock type move of your choice. But that is it for this video, everybody, so I wanted to thank you all for watching my exhibition on Hawlucha. Feel free to follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and also bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these sets as well as every other set I've been doing in my analysis series. And also feel free to join the Zat at zat.com/pokegrounds, as this is a great place to chat about Pokemon, trade, and battle. Also, my tournament, which I am also going to plug again in this video, is coming up in a week, exactly a week from today, on Saturday, December 21st at noon on Eastern Standard Time, so that is something to keep in mind, it's Eastern Standard Time, and this will take place on Pokemon Showdown in the tournament's chat room, as you can see right there, and it will also be live streamed on my Twitch live stream at www.twitch.tv/Rykard3. So feel free to check that out if you have not yet. I would love to have more people participating in it. Right now we have still around 56 slots very easily opened. So if you would like to participate, this would be a great time to do that, and you can just click the screen right now if you would like to. But anyways, that is it for this video, everybody. So as always, thank you all for watching. Take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.